Reynolds was on here today.
Oh, well, I can't help it. All right, y'all ready? Time is 6 p.m. I call this meeting of the Smith County Emergency Services District 2 to order. Certify that there is a quorum present, and all notices have been posted. At this time, I'll ask Commissioner Domney to lead us in a prayer and a pledge of allegiance to the United States and Texas flag.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity together this evening, Lord, and we thank you for the weather that you've given to us. Though we may not necessarily appreciate the cold and the wet now, but come this summer, we'll all be thinking back of it on favorable terms, Lord. So please bless us with the good times that we have. Let us always realize when those times are present. Lord, we pray that you be with us throughout this evening, and you lead us and guide us. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right. All right.
Hey, Brady.
Item 3, recognition of guests and special presentations. See Brandon's here with the emergency management. Jim's here from Christus. Is there anybody here that I hadn't recognized or? No, okay, good. Item number 4, public comment. We have anybody signed up for public comment? No. Okay. All right. No one signed up for public comment. Then we'll move on to item number 5, which is our consent agenda. To discuss, consider, and take necessary action related to the payment of accounts, bills, invoices, payroll requests, reimbursement requests for other payments, transfer funds, and amendments. 5.1 will be our bills, and I think we'll take each item, or not, or each point individually. So under 5.1 is our overall expenses.
I've got one comment to it.
Okay.
Under J&J Plumbing Repairs, notice that we have a $270 service call to a station where there was no one available to point out what was wrong there. So, you know, the bill states that we'll come back later when somebody can be there and tell us what's wrong. We just need to guard against, if we have issues that aren't just readily evident, about sending them out there. We had something similar last month, so just want to caution us against, be careful that we don't have that situation. And the other one that I had is, I'm going to request that we defer on one of the line items to Eagle Fuel, $27,713.90, to a later time in the meeting if possible.
Okay. We'll move that item to later in the meeting, discuss it later. So under 5.1, if anybody makes a motion, it will be a motion to pay everything except the Eagle Fuel bill. And I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move to approve the payment of bills posted in agenda item 5.1 with the exception of Eagle Fuel.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Domney to pay our bills under 5.1 with the exception of Eagle Fuel. I have a second.
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Thornton. Is there any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. Under 5.2, which is district credit cards, I looked at them. Everything seems to be in line on that one particular item. So unless somebody has something they've seen that I didn't see.
I'll make a motion under 5.2 district credit cards that we pay our district credit card bills for the amount of $8,341.12.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Thornton to pay our credit card bills in the amount of $8,341.12. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Is there any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. 5.3 is our contract payments. Unless somebody has any kind of question or comment about that, I would entertain a motion to approve those items.
I'll make a motion, that we pay our contract payments under 5.3 for $50,495.96.
Have Commissioner Thornton made a motion that we pay our contract payments in the amount of $50,495.96. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Edwards. Is there any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Item number 6, approval of the minutes. Receive, discuss, and take any necessary action relating to the following reports. 6.1, Board of Commissioners minutes, December 18th, 2023.
Commissioner Brown, I've reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate and would make the motion that we would adopt or accept those minutes from December the 18th, 2023.
Okay, have a motion by Commissioner Dominy that we approve the Board of Commissioners minutes for December the 18th, 2023. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Wilson. Is there any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Item 7, Executive Director's Administrative and Financial Report for board review and information only, no action required. Okay, you gonna handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna steal the thunder from the rest of the team here, so I'll highlight a few things
Okay,
on the assumption that all the commissioners have read it already. So the 360-degree evaluations are done for the leadership team. And the intent is to share those with the board well in advance of the next board meeting. And also to have a review session with the board. If all the commissioners could put on their agenda the date March 22nd, it's a Friday at 1 p.m. We are planning a strategy/budget workshop to cover the next few years. And hopefully everybody can attend that particular meeting.
March 22nd, 1 p.m.
Yep, March 22nd, 1 p.m. It's actually the Friday before the board meeting that's scheduled for that month. Also,
will it be held here?
pardon me?
Will it be here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I would like to bring the commissioner's attention to the sales tax. It seems to be slowing down a little bit, so pay attention to the sales tax projections going forward. So hopefully it's an aberration and it's not the beginning of a trend, but it was, the growth year over year was actually negative for the first time in the month of January.
I think we're down almost, what, $25,000 from last month?
Yeah, it was down 8% compared to the same period last year, so. And lastly, as far as migration to regions is concerned, Keith and myself, we are scheduled for a training session on their online iTreasury platform. And I'm not sure if you, Commissioner Dominer, have also been invited to set that up. If not, we will make sure that that happens because you need training too as an administrator. So those were the highlights and that's all I have, unless there are questions.
All right, hearing none. Item 9 will be our investment portfolio report for the ESD.
Financial.
Yeah, financial reports, okay. I'm sorry, financial reports. 8. I got ahead of myself. All right, who's going? Keith, I guess you're the financial report guy. Give it to us.
Yes, sir. So I was going to bring your attention to the budget versus actual comparison. So we're in December. 3 months into the year, so we should be at about 25% as far as utilized expenses and revenues compared to budget. So just look, going down the page, our taxes for sales, we're right at 25%. So 3.8 million we've realized, we budgeted 6.2 million approximately. I looked at last year, and we had recorded 28% of our budgeted revenues at that time last year. Proper or ad valorem tax, so we're approximately 3 million or 3.1 million. We've budgeted 7.1 million. We've recorded 43% of our budgeted revenues. Again, I looked at last year. We were at 34% at this time last year. Overall revenues, we're right at 32%, almost $8 million, budgeted 24.6. Last year, we were at 31% for the year. So we're in line to last year. If you look at capital purchases, there's some expenditures in there with no budget, but I'm going to be moving those into our new capital funds. I just haven't finalized that. It was kind of tied to the Regions Bank and going live with it. Working down to administrative payroll, year-to-date expenditures, approximately $1.8 million. We've budgeted approximately $8.1 million. We're right at 23% for the year. Looking at last year, we were at 20%. Part-time, we're over. I think there's a story there that you gentlemen are familiar with. Overtime, we're at 77% of our budgeted expenditures. Overall administrative payroll, 3.4 million, budgeted 13.3 million, right at 25% for the year. Compared to last year, 24%. Contractual fees and services for this year, we're right at 44% of budgeted expenditures, so approximately 219,000, budgeted 492,000. So last year we were at 90%, but we had paid the dispatching invoice last year, and then this year there's a story behind that dispatching invoice I think y'all are familiar with. Information technology, this year we've budgeted 687,000, utilized 223,000 approximately, that's 32%. Operating expenditures, 673,000 we've expensed, budgeted approximately 2.1 million. We're right at 31%. Last year at this time we were at 35%. Just looking at benefit for workers' comp, though, a little bit further up this page, we've budgeted 420,000 approximately. We've only utilized 188,000, that's 25% of the budget. Last year at this time, we had already utilized 38% of the budget. And then there's also a couple deficits on there. There's that 38,000 for the insurance, and we had discussed that at a previous meeting. And then there's some professional services there that I'm going to actually recode to a more appropriate GL account. General expenses overall, 4.5 million, budgeted 20.6 million. That's right at 21%. Last year, exact same thing, 21%. Moving on down the page to building repairs and maintenance. If you add the expenditures today and the encumbrances, we've expensed or obligated 36% of the budget. Supplies for gas and diesel, 64,000. We've budgeted 360,000. We've utilized 18% of the budget. Last year at this time, we had utilized 21% of the fuel budget. The general operational supplies, budgeted approximately 380,000. We have utilized approximately 106,000. So 27% of the budget we have utilized. Compared to last year, we were at 24%. So now there is a deficit in that one line. That's the rental equipment. That's for the Scorpion. We really didn't plan to go into renting that Scorpion for the period that we did. I'm sorry, not the Scorpion. I apologize. It's the the rental for the, I've got temporary amnesia. It's the rental for the, yeah, the dozer, I'm sorry, yeah, the dozer. So. And then a little further down, bookkeeping, we've utilized $6,600. Last year, we had already spent $20,000. Overall, we've utilized approximately 13% of our legal and professional expenditures. Last year at this time, we'd utilized 40%. Looking at new equipment and gear, if you add up the total encumbered and the actual income and the year-to-date expenditures, we're right at 46% for the year of our total budget of $1.7 million. The chief training and stipends, we've spent approximately $45,000 out of $198,000 budgeted. The pay-per call, those are on a quarterly billing, so when you see at the next board meeting, you'll see the shift in pay-per call stipends reflected here. For training, we budgeted $214,000. We've utilized $61,000, so we're right at 28% for the year. Last year at this time, we'd only used 9% of that budget. So we're making progress there. Truck repairs and maintenance, again, budgeted $480,000. If you add the actual income or actual expenditures and the total encumbered, you come to right at 35% for the year utilized. Compared to last year, we were at 38%. So overall, our expenditures are approximately $5.2 million. Oh, thank you. And we have budgeted approximately $24.7 million in expenditures. So this year, we're right at 21%. Compared to last year, 21%. So unless there's other questions, that's all I have.
I don't have any. You have any, Brent?
No, I'll follow back up with you on just a couple of them, just to
Okay.
look at some trends that, but, yeah, we're overall saying, okay, and this budget meeting will be the telltale of really first, kind of where we're headed, so,
All right.
thank you, Keith.
We, guess we need to approve the financials as presented then? Or we just, or is that just for information only?
These are all for information.
Okay, all right. All right. So now we're on number 9. I believe that's right, isn't it? Yeah, investment portfolio report for Smith County ESD2 covering the financial for the fiscal quarter ending December 31st, 2023 for board review and information only, no action required.
So the report that you have has been verified independently by Commissioner Domine and myself. And we have signed and attested to the fact that this report is correct. And currently there's $22,271,000 in the Fidelity investment account, and we have depository bank balances of approximately $3.6 million.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Item 10, discuss, consider taking any necessary action on approval of a request to allow district staff to pay benefit premiums at due dates. District benefits, healthcare, dental, vision, life, are billed in advance. February health premium is due February 1st, 24. Who's gonna speak on that? Is that you or Keith? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So Commissioners, we're asking for authorization for the district to pay the benefit premiums when they're due. And the challenge is our previous vendor, for mostly healthcare is what I'm focused on. Our previous vendor, United, would bill us in the beginning of the month, usually the 14th, 15th, and they want to be paid the very first day of the following month. So in the example that I put in the request is the February bill is due on February 1st for the service period of February. Well, our existing or our new benefits provider, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, they aren't as timely as United is. And they will we'll end up getting an invoice on the 20th, the 21st, even the 22nd, and then they want to be paid the 1st. And it really doesn't give us the flexibility to include it as an agenda item or on the consent agenda for payment. And so my concern, especially with the healthcare, is, so I read on their website, Blue Cross Blue Shield, at 31 days. So if it's due February 1st, 31 days later, if we, for whatever reason, maybe something occurred, we haven't processed it, Blue Cross Blue Shield could make an enrollee pay out of pocket for healthcare services. Now, once we caught up and got current with the premiums, they would reimburse that enrollee. But my concern is that we conceivably, an employee may not be able to get health care because they just don't have the financial resources to cover the upfront cost. And so we're asking for the board to authorize us to pay up to 20% of an increase. And typically, our increases are only related to, or are driven almost solely by new staff, and or if maybe someone had a family, so they went from single to family, or back the other direction. But typically, the only increases would be related to, again, new staff or, again, someone changing coverage. Yeah, qualifying events. So I put a little schedule here that showed healthcare, dental, and life. Again, my primary concern is all of them, but really healthcare is the primary concern. They just don't bill us timely, and neither does Principal really bill us very timely. The life insurance guys do a pretty good job, but it's not a significant amount. So we're asking the board to authorize the staff to pay the ongoing benefit premiums up to a 20% increase. And then on the following board meeting, we will list those invoices, premium amounts on the consent agenda for your approval.
And so what drove the 20%?
That was just an example. I thought that was a safe range to estimate it to.
Okay, so it's just a wag.
Yeah, it's just
Nothing behind it.
yes.
And so the average, what we're stating now is it a rolling average that you're calculated on, or is it based on annual divided by 12?
United Healthcare, we've only had 3 months of activity, so I just took 3 months and averaged it.
Okay.
And then the same for the other
Okay,
benefits.
so how do we manage, let's say we get into month 6 and the average is 90,000. Are we talking about 20% of 90,000, or are we locked in at 20% of 85,000? In your mind, where are we at?
Well, I was thinking up to a 20% increase.
Right.
So conceivably up to 102,000.
Okay, so if I have a bill that comes in at 90,000 1 month, or theoretically higher than that, but anyway, I'm just trying to make sure that we understand what you're asking for and what we're actually approving. So the cap is 102,000.
For healthcare, yes, sir.
Okay. And then each month you'll come back in and essentially reconcile the account?
Indeed.
And this is what we requested and this is what we actually had to pay?
Indeed, yes, sir.
And then I'll appreciate it if you would keep us abreast of kind of where we're trending on that as well. Because I mean, I don't want to see us making payments up at the 100,000 mark, and then and we have a similar situation that we're scared of now, that we're trying to protect ourselves against now, where we have a bill come in for 105, and we're not prepared for it. So just
If I may, once we have filled all the 18 positions, we probably will bump up fairly close to that, potentially. So in that case, we would need to come back to the board again.
okay. I understand what they're up against trying to get it
Yeah.
done, so I guess I don't have an issue with it. So just keep a good tabs on exactly where
Yeah, I think what they're asking is permission to spend up to that amount and not anything over that. And that would be a 20% increase. That would cover anything between those averages up to that amount, so. I think it's just a, as Keith says, more or less a safe assumption is to be able to pay the bill. So I wouldn't have any problem with it either. And then reconcile it and put the actual amount that we did have to pay. So,
Okay, I'm gonna make the motion and let me know if anybody disagree with it, that would authorize district staff to pay the ongoing benefit premiums for healthcare up to $102,000 a month, $102,000 per month. Dental and vision premiums up to $9,120 per month. Life insurance premiums up to $8,280 per month. And that Keith would actually report back to us with the reconciliation following month of all premiums paid.
okay. Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy to allow the staff to make healthcare premiums up to $102,000. Dental and vision premiums up to $9,120. Life insurance premiums up to $8,280. And that Keith reconcile the report and report back to the board each month. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Is there any other discussion or question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. All right. Item 11, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on approval of a request to allow the board president to sign documentation to allow automated deposits to transfer from Vera Bank to Regions Bank. Who's gonna speak on that one? Keith? Okay.
So, Commissioners, we're asking the board to authorize the board president to sign required deposit information relating to our transition to regions. So some of our partners, for example, the Texas Comptroller wires funds directly into our account. Smith County wires property tax or ad valorem funds directly into our account. TIFMAS wires funds directly into our account. Some of our partners want a letter on our letterhead signed by our president, Commissioner Brown, to move forward with that, as well as some other documentation, but they definitely want a letter. And so we're asking the board to authorize Commissioner Brown to sign that letter so that we can move forward with transitioning our cash receipts over to Regions.
I make the motion that we authorize board president to sign the required deposit information relating to a transition of our depository institutions.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy to authorize the board president to sign required deposit information relating to transition to depository institutions. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wilson. The only thing I'll say is that I was kind of wondering why they wanted the board president to do it instead of the treasurer, but understand that was a requirement from Regions Bank that it be done that way. Is that right? Or,
Initially, partly, but also initially it was Gary Barber's office.
okay,
They said they wanted the letter on the letterhead with your signature on it, as well as
Okay.
some other information.
that's fine. I just want to make it clear that that's what it was.
No, I agree with you,
Yeah.
that would seem natural, that
Yeah.
the board treasurer. should
Yeah,
sign.
that's right, but anyway, but we have to do what they request or it won't get done. All right,
Handcuffs.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna make sure there ain't no handcuffs, that's right. Anyway, all right, any other question or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. All right. Item 12, Director of Human Resources report. Sherry?
Okay. Before you is my Human Resources report. There's a few things I wanted to highlight on here. The W-2s were mailed on Friday, the 19th. The 1095-Cs are finalized, but as soon as I receive them, they will be mailed, but we actually have until March 1st on those. Nikki Simmons, our community outreach coordinator, started on January 2nd, and from what I hear, she's doing a fantastic job so far. The 12-hour firefighter applicants, we had 2 rounds of applications, November and January. November, we had 5 applicants who passed the physical agility and the written test. And then for January, we had 13 out of 16 who were vetted, and they will be taking the physical agility test January 26th and the written exam February 2nd and 3rd. We've also opened up promotions within the department for driver, lieutenant, and captain. Personnel have until February 2nd to notify us of their intention, and those tests will be February 28th through March 5th, depending upon which test they're taking. House Bill 471 passed, where fire departments and political subdivisions are required to pay firefighter paid leave for an illness or injury related to their line of duty for up to 1 year, and up to 1 year of light duty while he is recovering. Chelsea Milam, our employment attorney, confirmed the burden falls on the ESD to pay the additional 30% over the 70% currently paid by workers' comp. I have a meeting tomorrow with VFIS, who is our broker with Texas Mutual, to see what our options might be. But we will need to change our policy from 15% over the 70% currently paid by, I'm sorry, let me repeat that. We will need to change our policy from 15% over the 70% currently paid to 30%, unless Texas Mutual incurs the additional 30% salary cost. I won't know that till I have a discussion tomorrow, and I will keep the board informed when I know more. So that concludes my HR report, unless you have any questions for me. Okay.
Anybody have any questions on this here? Okay.
Do we know what that impact will be, or will we know it by our budget meeting?
Yes, we should know that. We should be able to figure that out. Just an approximation, of course.
All right. Item 12.2, workforce injuries.
For the second month in a row, we don't have any workers' comp injuries or anybody out on light duty, so that's good news.
That is good news.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
13, Director of Support Services. Discuss, consider, and take any action on purchasing a new VMUX computer module for engine 246 at a cost of $2,060.65. Larry?
Commissioners, this is a part to replace on an engine. Without it, it's going to stay out of service. It's a sole source part from the manufacturer directly.
I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the VMUX computer module for $2,060.65.
Have a motion by Commissioner Domney. We approve the purchase of the VMUX computer module for engine 246 at a cost of $2,060.65. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Edwards. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Okay. 13.2, discuss, consider, and take action on the purchase of 2 IBC totes of Phos-Check for inventory. Foam, I guess that's what it is, isn't it, Larry?
It is foam. This is a standard function of logistics and is a standard and budgeted purchase. That's the cheaper seat.
About how many months does that represent?
So we're still building that. We've only been doing the IBCs now for about a year. Last year we made it through with 2, but we started about mid-year. This year we've budgeted for 4 of these totes. So I expect that to last us about another 6 months. Now that is dependent on call volume and type of calls, and we are tracking that down. So what we do with these is we fill 55-gallon barrels with them at logistics, and then we distribute them by the barrels, and we track that down to the station level.
It's 520 gallons altogether of that.
They're 260 gallons a piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 5,
Make a motion that we purchase the 2 260-gallon totes of Phos-Check for $18,560 from MAFCO.
Have a motion by Commissioner Domney, authorize purchase 260-gallon total supplies check for the warehouse at a cost of $18,560 from NAFCO. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second. By Commissioner Thornton. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Discuss, consider, and take any action on the purchase of smoke liquid necessary for training.
Commissioners, this will become a standard purchase. We've been historically purchasing this in either 1 gallon or 5 gallon quantities. Purchasing at the 50-gallon drum is going to save us about $1,000 altogether on this transaction over how we've been purchasing in the past. With the increased amount of training that's being facilitated from the training division, this is a necessary item and is budgeted.
And it is a budgeted item.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion on 13.3.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the purchase of 2 50-gallon drums of smoke liquid from NETCO for a cost of $6,086.36.
Have a motion by Commissioner Thornton, we authorize purchase of 2 50-gallon drums of smoke liquid from NAFCO for a cost of $6,086.36. Have a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Wilson. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. 13.4, discuss, consider, and take any action on proposal for a new uniform management process with enhanced efficiency and cost savings. Larry, you want to speak on that?
Yes, sir. In front of y'all should have a fairly detailed plan on how we are proposing the system would work, but the short story on it is that we would transition from an allowance-based system to a issuance system where we're issuing only the needed materials. We would stock those in the warehouse and have inventory on hand. This would shorten the lead time, reduces our overall cost for the commodities, and we feel like it will lead to a better overall user experience and a more streamlined process. Also increase our transparency and tracking capability, and we will track inventory down to the individual it's being issued to. Be open for any questions.
The $233,000 expenditure would represent normally how much out of the annual budget?
It's about 2/3 or a little over the annual budget. We will still have a small remainder available. We'll manage that very tightly. This will be, in addition, we're also purchasing equipment or new supplies that we have not historically issued that's now required under the new policies and contracts that we've adopted. Some of those items would be the two-tone pants, reflective pants that we'll be issuing to support staff, along with raincoats and other uniform supplies that are now required. So this is not only going to be decreasing costs, but also increasing our offering, but controlling it tightly. This is a large shift in the way that we've done things.
Is there a system that we're purchasing as part of that, or are we?
No, sir, it's just a large shift. So historically, the paid staff would have received about a $650 allowance for uniforms this year. They would have been able to purchase through an online store pretty much anything they wanted to purchase. It would have been purchased through basically our sole source uniform provider that we've been dealing with for a few years. They're out of a different county. They do their best. They do a good job, but sometimes the turnaround is slow. In the bidding process, we've determined we can split these purchases up around 6 different vendors, lower our cost per inventory item, and keep those on hand where we reduce that lead time. And on the volunteer side, they've typically received about $6,000. I think this year it's about an $8,500 allowance. What we're trying to do is pull all of that together into a single management oversighted program. But it's not an application we're purchasing, it's just a change of process and procedure internally.
I think it's important to point out that the exchange will be, they have to turn one item in order to get a new item out. So it's not use it or lose it like it would have
make sure everybody's got a good understanding, you know, our career staff and everybody understands how this thing's gonna work.
I agree.
Because there'll certainly be a lot of questions, I'm most certain.
Oh, there'll be questions and there'll be aggravations, there'll be growing pains that we'll learn from, but overall, it's gonna be what's best for the taxpayer.
Okay. All right.
And I think one of the biggest benefits that we're gonna be able to see as whether you're paid staff, whether you volunteer, is that you're not gonna wait weeks to get something. We're gonna have the off instance where we don't have exactly what somebody needs, but I'm gonna say a large portion of them really should have the expectation they'll be able to turn it in and pick it up almost the same time, other than maybe some engraving work or whatever.
Yeah, the embroiderer would be the difference in that, but we found a local embroiderer company that's here within the county that's gonna be working with us directly. It's a small mom and pop outfit. We feel like once we're past the initial push on this, they'll do a good job moving forward for us.
Well, when you get your stock up, somebody needs a pair of pants, they tear a pair of pants up and come up there and bring you that pair of pants and say, I need a pair of pants, and you can hand them another pair of pants.
That's
instead of
exactly
waiting
it.
3 or 4 weeks to get a pair of pants.
Yes, sir.
So, hopefully it'll work out. Like I said, there will be some hiccups in it. Everybody just needs to be patient until it's all done, so. I think it, you know, I've worked at companies, that's what we had to do. You turn one in, get one back, you know, so. It's just a good way of tracking it, so.
There's also some security on getting some of those uniforms back.
Right.
We most recently had even found some at some donation sites within the county. Some of our uniform supplies have been donated.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to avoid that at all costs.
Right. Okay. Well, I entertain a motion on 13.4.
I'll make the motion that we approve the transition to an in-house uniform store for personnel with funding authorization of $233,612.70.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy to approve the transition to an in-house uniform store for personnel with a funding authorization of $233,612.70. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Edwards. Is there any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. 13.5, discuss, consider, and take any action on purchasing a new EGR cooler and upfit kit for engine 172 at a cost of $2,685. Larry?
Commissioners, this part is required for fleet repair. That engine would remain out of service without this part. And in front of you, you'll see the evaluation tabulation that we did for the comparison on the 3 quotes that we received. And we recommend that you move forward with Rush Truck Center at $2,685.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we authorize staff to purchase the new EGR cooler and upfit kit for E172 from Rush Truck Center at a cost of $2,685.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy, authorize staff to purchase a new EGR cooler and upfit kit for engine 172 from Rush Truck Center at a cost of $2,685. Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Is there any other discussion or question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. All right. Well, 13.6 is board report. You want to do that, or would you rather go 13.7 first on the?
Up to you, Commissioner.
Let's move down here and talk about this 13.7, discuss, consider, and take action on replacing septic pumps at Fleet and Ridge Springs 2 at a cost not to exceed $10,455.20.
This is an unexpected, unbudgeted item. We've had lots of reports of septic either backing into the station or gurgling up. The vendor that we have contracted with, Joey Riggles, has been out to the facility. They ended up having to pump it. We issued an emergency purchase order for about about 4,500, I'm sorry. About 4,500 for them to get into the lift station. This is a private lift station. It's not a real septic system. It's a private lift station that lifts the sewage from those two facilities up to the public utility, the sewage system that the city of Tyler operates. It's because we're lower than the sewer line, we have to have a lift station. There's 2 pumps in this lift station. Both pumps should be rated at 100%, but they're both really old, no longer manufactured, and once they pulled them based on our emergency purchase order and took them apart, they realized they can't even get the parts for them. So they've got one back together, and in there, it's barely functioning. They're having to pump it every now and again to keep the levels down. And their recommendation was to replace both. We have an alternative available for you to only replace one, but I would very much recommend against that and just go ahead and replace both of them, and we can be done with it, because the one pump by itself is not keeping up, and it should be able to keep up. An alternative that was suggested was potentially putting in a whole new aerobic system. We don't feel like that's a great idea, because that would take up additional real estate at the fleet maintenance complex, which we're talking about building out into a larger training complex, and that may interfere with things in the future.
Seems awfully high, just at first glance, but I guess, are there other alternatives, like new pumps, or has it gotta be rebuilt, or
This would be for,
refurbished pumps, or?
this would be for new pumps. Originally, we intended to have them refurbished, but they're unable to get the parts for them.
Those were, if I'm not wrong, those were the existing pumps that were there when it was, what was the name of the company that was there?
When it was Baker Hughes. Now,
Baker Hughes,
I don't
yeah.
have a way to verify this information at this point, okay? But I was there whenever we purchased the facility at Baker Hughes. I got to talk to the facility manager. The story that we got from them is that that lift station actually pumps sewage all the way basically to the interstate on a private line to then tap into the sewage system. So these are pumps that are pumping our sewage almost a mile and a half. So they've got to be some pretty heavy-duty pumps. Now, again, I don't really have a way that I've been able to verify that.
Yeah, it's not
Or
like you
even-
can inspect it, so.
That's correct. I was familiar with all that when we bought the place.
Okay.
They've got a lift station just south of the interstate, but it's pumped from the main, shop up to there.
So, I mean, we're pumping a long distance, so I'm
Yeah.
guessing they're pretty heavy-duty pumps.
They're just wore out.
Yeah,
They're 3-phase pumps, so they're,
And they'd been in there some time before we got it too, yeah.
well, like Larry says, one's working, but we don't know how long it's gonna work, so we can replace one, and then the other one goes out, we gotta replace it. So it's kind of a catch-22, you either replace both of them, put 2 new ones in, or you can piecemeal it, however you wanna do it.
it's my recommendation we replace both. I think that's the more cost-effective solution, and we already know that the pump is not keeping up to its rated capacity. Replacing only one at this point would just lead to additional costs 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now. We don't know, but there'll be an additional mobilization cost, an additional pump cost, and the parts are gonna go up, I'm sure.
I'll make the motion, we'll go with Larry's suggestion with 2 pumps.
Have a motion by Commissioner Wilson that we authorize the replacement of both septic pumps, number 1 and number 2 at Fleet Ridge Springs at a cost not to exceed $10,455.20. Have a second?
So Larry, does that include this is just for the pumps, this is not the other emergency funding that you've already, or any other cost, right?
I think the other emergency funding will be turned into this cost. We may have a slight difference once it's all said and done if they have to pump it again, but the original emergency purchase was to refurbish these pumps. So that's nullified. We'll
Okay.
continue that same PO will be upgraded to this approval amount.
Okay,
Thank you. And I'll second.
okay. Have a second by Commissioner Dominy. Any other question or discussion? Thanks for clarifying that, Larry. All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And that motion carries. We'll just go on and get these action items out of the way, and then you can give your report, Larry, if that's all right.
That's fine.
Discuss, consider, and take action on purchasing new front and rear tires for brush 327 at a cost of $2,455.58.
Commissioners, pretty standard purchase. This is from our contracted vendor. And the last time these tires, it doesn't look like these tires have ever been replaced. 2017 is the original vehicle tires, so we've gotten some use out of them.
I'll make a motion for the staff to purchase new front and rear tires for B327 from Southern Tire Mart at a cost of $2,455.58.
I have a motion by Commissioner Thornton, authorize staff to purchase new front and rear tires for brush 327 from Southern Tire Mart at a cost of $2,455.58. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Any other question or discussion? I got one question. Do we pay federal excise tax on these tires, or was it just state tax we don't pay?
I don't know the answer to that. I will find out.
Well, the reason I ask, I've noticed some invoices that have federal excise tax on them, and some of them don't.
Okay.
So that's the reason I asked. It may make a difference if we don't, so.
Yep. I will investigate.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, all those in favor of this purchase signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Okay. 13.9, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on purchase of speaker equipment for the first set of stations at a cost not to exceed $12,700.
Commissioners, this is part of a budgeted project that we had in the funding request for the budget. This will only be accomplishing 3 of the stations. We figured we'd get 3 of them done and then come back for the other, whatever's remaining. This is within the budgeted amount for each station, and we'd ask that you proceed.
Is that-
My assumption is these are the worst of the stations.
The larger the station, the worse they are. There are some pretty static costs in the initial outfit of the amplifier and the mixer and that kind of stuff, but let me think who else we have on this list.
I mean, I know that we're modeling after ARP and Flint Gresham.
Yes.
So it just seems like it's pretty expensive.
It is, the amplifier and the mixer are really where your big costs are, and then the bigger the station, the more speakers you have to have. The goal with the speakers is to put more of them so that you're never too far from one. You can keep the volume turned lower, decreases your echo, leads to hearing it more clear. And these are large stations, well, 2 of them are. And so there's a lot of little rooms you've got to get speakers into. So I believe the answer is yes, these are the larger stations.
Which stations are they, Larry?
This one, the 2 large ones are going to be Troop and White House, and then the smaller one in this one is Jackson.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I'll make the motion that we allow staff to purchase the equipment, proceed with the install for the budgeted speaker equipment. In the not to exceed $12,700.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy to allow the staff to purchase the equipment from vendors and proceed with the install not to exceed $12,700 for the stations of Troop, White House, and Jackson Heights number 2. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Thornton. Is there any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Okay, Larry, now we'll go back to your report under 13.6.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I've included again the kind of my summary of all of the metrics across all of the support services divisions. Apparatus utilization, we're still sitting at about 3% utilization, which is holding to last month and the month prior, with 67 of the 74 rolling stock used in the prior 30 days. Kind of a recap on safety. We were about double our average over the preceding few months at 2.4 events per 1,000. I haven't really had a lot of time to dig into exactly what's causing that, but a lot of them were recognized as harsh turns and harsh braking. So we're working towards a policy to address how these will be analyzed and really put to use. But on the positive side, speeding has decreased from our first 3 months, what you would consider baseline at 16.52, down to 1.6, which is up slightly from last month's at 1.47. This month, we drove 32,798 miles in the last 30 days, and that's pretty close to standard. Moving on to the fleet maintenance metrics. We have had some technicians that were taking extended vacations and off sick during the holiday schedule as well, so we are down slightly from 75 to 71, but we're still above the average of 48 once you take all that into account, all their time off, which is hard to reflect in the charts that you see. We've improved general housekeeping and safety posture at the shop, and that will continue to improve. And here in the next week or so, you'll see a new policy roll out that aims to increase productivity in certain areas. The backlog is still growing as expected, again, due to the in-house outfitting and some holiday schedules.
So have you sat down and looked at basically an analysis of what the fit out, self-performing the fit out is actually costing us compared to third party and the impact it's having to our backlog?
That's exactly what we're conducting now. Historically, we haven't tracked that information. This time, we're tracking that information even for people that are stepping into the shop, that are helping from operations, that have some subject matter expertise. We are making everybody fill out work logs. We created work orders on this. So the answer is yes. These are really our pilots for that data set, because prior outfits that we've done were before support services. So I'm very interested to see what the results will be. Still early on, looks like we're still doing much better. And the quality of the work, I think, is better on what we've seen for brush trucks. Some of the solutions that have been put into place are pretty innovative solutions that the guys have come up with.
I'm just worried about the continued impact on the backlog. So another thing too, and Chief, you actually may have this in your report, but what we were committed when we made these purchases and actually what we're seeing in real life as far as those deliveries. And I know cost-wise we're probably okay, but it's just, I'm thinking about total duration from the time we place the order to when we actually roll it in a station.
Implementation.
Yeah.
Good question, though. I appreciate it. And we are looking to that. And once these projects are finalized, I'll submit a report.
Okay.
Early indications, though, are that we are still ahead and plan to be ahead. Now, the impact of the backlog is the more concerning factor. One thing that I'm looking at, though, is if we're saving more than what it costs for a technician, if we do 2 to 3 of these a year, we may end up with the ability to basically hire another technician at the cost of what the outfitting is and get an extra technician 7 or 6 months out of the year when they're not doing outfitting.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
Yes, sir. On the facilities maintenance, the resolutions or request is up with incoming request trending down. I believe, speaking to the backlog, we're reducing due to us finally starting to get a handle on some of the facilities issues that are out there, and I hope that trend continues, that we're seeing a downward turn on the number of tickets received. Logistics, the ticket resolution is below average due to the ongoing large projects and some new initiatives. A major factor was getting everything prepared for the meeting on the uniform and the new uniform management system. That's a huge undertaking. A lot of time went into the planning of that. Tim did a great job with the analytics on it. However, the cost per ticket is up. I think the reason the cost per ticket is up is we've reduced the number of tickets coming in to the logistics system for standard station supplies due to the supply cabinets. So I'll continue to monitor and make sure that is what's occurring. And the IT ticket backlog is reducing, but slightly. We're barely nicking away at it. We're still short-staffed, and IT satisfaction is consistently high, despite the decreased resolved requests due to staff shortages. So hopefully we'll find another IT staff member shortly. The busy months are ahead of us.
Ever hear anything from our guy that went to the military or whatever?
He's still
still active
deployed.
duty, huh?
He's still active duty. Lots of time on the border. Lots of time on the border.
Yep.
And that would conclude my report. I do have one other thing to review, but if y'all have any questions on the report itself, I'd like to take those now.
I think it'd be good to tell everybody how many miles we drove and all.
That's
this
what
other
I was
stuff.
about to go into. So
Okay.
I've included our 2023 fleet year end review from the Samsara system. And we've driven 14 times around the globe this year as a fleet. That's 357,049 miles. We did 9,519 hours behind the wheel, about 4,800 miles per vehicle on average, and we traveled about 50,000 trips in total unique trips. The overall safety score was 95. We detected 2,615 safety events, and I'll take time to mention here, we're still training the system. These trucks are going to behave a little bit differently than what the Samsara system is expecting as 18-wheelers driving. So there's some adjustments that have to be made. Fleet is also, IT did the initial install of the cameras, but as they come in through Fleet for their preventative maintenance, they're hooking the system up to the emergency systems. So we know when the emergency lights are on, we know when the siren's activated, we know when the PTO's on, and we can use those to kind of trim up what the acceptable speed ratings are, whether they're in emergency mode or not. So that will help to bring that number down.
So what's the safety score of 95? How's that calculated?
So looking at it, it takes into account our industry, which I'm not sure how many other industry providers that they have, but they just have us in as government and what all that takes into account. But
it's their rating.
it is their rating, and it's on a scale of, I think 30 was the lowest it could go and 150 being the highest. So it's not 100. It's not 100. It's a little odd, but we are above the industry trend line there, so hopefully that continues. And
Maybe ask the question is, we got 2,600 safety events, but we're scoring 95, so now that I know the range is 30 to 50, then it's a different.
It's a little odd on here. It took me a little bit of digging. In addition, there's two more things to cover there. Our average fuel efficiency was a whopping 6.4 miles per gallon. Chief, do you want to tag in on this, or do you want me to straddle it all?
Yeah, no, I think you're on.
Okay. So this year, we also have, the system uses facial recognition to determine who's driving the vehicle. And so this year, our safest drivers, I'm just going to name the top three here, was Battalion Chief Joseph Nix as our #1 safest driver. I'm not sure on Mr. Massey's rank from ART. I think he's assistant chief or captain?
Assistant.
Okay. So assistant chief Brandon Massey was second in the entire fleet, and third was firefighter Christopher Burns, or Taylor Burns. So we're going to have some gift certificates that we'll hand out to them at a later date. None of them are here with us tonight.
Nice.
But we really appreciate their hard work, and I'll tell you, for Battalion Chief Nix to be ranked on this, he's a lot of miles. I mean, our battalion chiefs are constantly on the road, so to have any of them appear in the top three is a real achievement. He should be very proud.
So he's standard for the other battalions?
Any questions, commissioners, I can answer for you? If not, that concludes support services.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Chief of Operations, 14.1, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on annual NFPA 1851 gear testing.
Commissioners, 14.1 is your annual, required by the commission, NFPA standards on gear testing, inspection, and repairs. So just the standard business of doing that. We've evaluated 3 different quotes. We have not selected the lowest bid. We've selected the best value, meaning that the vendor that is able to come and perform on site for us. You can imagine that trying to shuttle that much gear to an offsite or out of the county is almost logistically impossible. So the best value is to select the vendor that is competitively priced and will come on-site and perform the work. So you have that before you with Redline gear cleaning.
So what's the premium we're paying on that?
What's the premium of that? What's the difference?
The difference in, yeah.
Forgive me, I don't have that, pulled up right this second. We'll get that 1 minute here. I'll pull up, Redline is at 45,000, and, yeah, go ahead, and I'll get Delta.
Total care was 48,866.
And Delta was the low at 44,640.
So we're paying $1,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, for a guy to come on site and we don't have to ship it to him. It's well worth it.
Yeah,
we would exceed that in personnel cost, trying to shuttle.
that's what we're trying to get at.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Make the motion that we authorize staff to utilize Redline gear cleaning to conduct the annual NFPA 1851 inspections at a cost of $45,084.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy to authorize the staff to use Redline equipment testing at $45,085, is that right?
$45,084.
$84, yeah. Have a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Thornton. All right. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. 14.2, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on purchase of new hire bunker gear from NAFCO in the amount of $143,703.62. Chief?
Yeah, this is the purchase for the new hires for our 12-hour staffing. This is budgeted and falls within the budgeted amount and is related directly to the new hires.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the gear.
Look at that real quick. So it does include the estimated freight of $500. So we may see a little bit of difference based on the freight cost, but all this is. I make the motion that we approve the purchase of bunker gear for new hires from NAFCO in the amount of $143,703.68.
Have a motion by Commissioner Dominy to approve or authorize the staff to purchase bunker gear for new hires from NAFCO in the amount of $143,703.68. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Edwards. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. Is there a lead time on that? Like it, or,
Yeah, it's right at 6 months.
okay, all right. All right, 14.3, discuss, consider, and take necessary action on purchase of structural gloves from NAFCO in the amount of $18,711.
Almost the same purchase that you had before you on the structural gear, just related to structural gloves, not included in the other quote.
So that's the gloves to go along with the bunker gear we just purchased, is that
Correct.
right? Okay,
Or is that, forgive me, that's the stock gloves.
okay, stop, okay.
Make the motion that we approve the purchase of structural gloves from NAFCO in the amount of $18,711.
A motion by Commissioner Dominy to approve PO 3864, which authorizes staff to purchase structural gloves from NAFCO in the amount of $18,711. Have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead.
Have a second by Commissioner Edwards. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. All right. When we, Chief, if it's all right with you, we'll skip your report right now and go on down to the county hazard mitigation plan. And, I guess that mainly we just need to approve the draft, is that right, or?
It is, and we have the county emergency manager here, Brandon Moore, who's able to comment any further, but this is our position to approve the draft so that it can move forward within its process on to the state for approvals, and then come back around after FEMA back to the county for adoption. So it's kind of procedural as it progresses along in the planning and approval processes.
Does it change anything that we're currently doing? Any of our process procedures, any of our?
There is some updating of it. That's looking at current recognition of hazards within the county. So there's been some update of that. One of them is water wells for emergency water supply. Identifying some of those things as initiatives for the county is important, so that as we come back around, then we have the potential for grant funding as a county down the road.
So more or less, is we just would approve it and say we'll follow the county's hazard mitigation plan as presented, or
Correct.
if something happens. Brandon, you have anything you need to speak on about it, or anything? Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the draft of the hazard mitigation plan.
So made.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Domney that we approve the draft of the hazard mitigation plan for Smith County. And do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Is there any other question or discussion at this time? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And your draft is approved, Brandon. Thank you. All right. 14.6, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on personnel attending hazmat training in Arlington. Chief, you want to?
Yeah, for sure. We have 4 seats being offered to us at Arlington Fire Department, who is conducting a technician level class for hazardous materials. We have 4 of our members identified to attend that, which is a upper technician level course, giving us some better expertise in the field operating with hazardous materials. That gives us some ability to better recognize and better train our own staff for implementation of hazardous materials guidelines and our response model.
This expense budgeted in the training account?
It is.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve expenses related to 4 personnel attending hazmat training in Arlington at a cost not to exceed $2,204.
Have a motion by Commissioner Thornton to approve expenses related to 4 personnel attending the hazmat training in Arlington at a cost not to exceed $10,204. Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Any other question or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, all those opposed say nay, and that motion carries. All right, we'll go back to 14.4. Chief, give your report now.
Yeah, Commissioners, you have my report. A couple of things I'd like to point out, and a couple of things I'd like to announce. We're ready to do a push-in ceremony for engine 122, the Pierce Enforcer that you approved April of 2023. So we'll be able to push that inside of a year. So that would be a ceremony to take place on Monday, the 29th of this month at 1 p.m. So we invite any of the commissioners that could make it I'll send out some invites and make sure that you know about that. So the traditions of the, at Red Springs, at the shop, at the service center. So that's Red Springs Station number 2 at the service center. So that'd be Monday, the 29th at 1 p.m. The traditions of a push-in, wash-down ceremony and a dedicatory prayer to place that apparatus in service. The staff has been working hard to get tools and equipment mounted, the different accessories that needed to be mounted to the cab and in the compartmentation to make sure our tools are secure on the apparatus. And so they've been working hard to get that done. It looks really nice. We're excited to place that in service. And exciting that was a demo unit that this board approved, and here we are in the late January being able to place that in service. So I'm proud of that, to report that to you. In addition to that, another announcement is that on March 4th and 5th at 6 p.m., both nights, we'll repeat the ceremony. We'll do a badge pinning and swearing in ceremony at Green Acres Baptist Church. They've been gracious to provide us with not only a space, but also with services, including they're supplying a dinner for us. And so we're very thankful for them to be willing to be so gracious to do that for us. What occurs that night would be to have a significant other or family member pin of the badge. We were able to obtain those badges out of last year's budget. They're here. So pinning of the badge and the collar brass to go with it, as well as swearing in an oath like you've seen us do right in front of you here in our board meetings. Very similar to swear all paid staff in that format. So
What was that date again, Chief?
it'd be March the 4th and the 5th at 6 p.m. So this is the first time that's been announced publicly. All the save the dates are going out in urgency to try and secure those dates and get everything ready to go. So we're excited about that night, and that it could be a special night for all of our paid staff for sure. And it would invite any of our chiefs, our service provider chiefs, as well as our commissioners to be in attendance with us.
Don't mind me interrupting, Eric, make sure we post gathering notices for those dates.
Once again, I'm extremely proud of our training division. They've been conducting lots of training. The acquired structure that we have near Bullard, as well as our container projects, and we've been able to accomplish significant volumes of training at those two sites. So really proud of the work that's been ongoing, including the training captains, keeping that staffed up and work through to make sure that the objectives of those training deliveries were well thought out and implemented. I've already reported on the Pierce engine. The Brush 122 is the Dodge chassis. It's making great progress at the shop. The one thing that we are waiting on is the skid unit, which had about a 16 to 19 week delivery time. We ordered that late in the calendar year of 23. And expect that that'll be here sometime in early March. So we'll be able to get that apparatus in service and put together. The Spartan apparatus, which was also approved and purchased in April of 23, just like the Pierce, is in final finish out now. I get daily updates on it. They're working quite rapidly now to complete it in Houston. So things are moving along nicely on that, and we expect that it'll be here in the next 30 days or so. The good news about it is when it arrives, it'll be a little bit different and finish out some of the things that we purchased in that demo unit in terms of mounting of tools and equipment. So it'll be a little further along than the Pierce was when it arrived here, and just a little disparity in the two demo units and how they were purchased. Lucas devices are on order. We additionally expect those sometime in March. So I'm excited to see those come in and implementation of the CPR devices. We already tonight on a couple of occasions, we've talked about the applicants and the 12-hour staffing and the recruiting. This Saturday, the 26th, will be the physical agility test for the most recent closure of the recruiting process.
The physical agility be up at the training field.
We will, yes, sir. And those are some of the highlights available for any questions you might have, and then I'll address the safety report.
Got any updates on the 3 Pierce pumpers we ordered 2 years ago?
I do. Those again are now slated for August of '24. So we anticipate the one that you most recently purchased just a month or two back, I guess it was a month ago. We purchased an additional sister to the one being placed in service now. So exactly the same spec, but the ones that had previous to my tenure had been ordered, their delivery time is now scheduled for August of '24.
So do you know what the committed delivery was at the time?
When we originally purchased them,
Yeah.
I understood it was 3 years. It was a 3-year, a 36-month that it was pushed out. And so those were purchased in 22.
We purchased them in 22, and they told us it'd be March of this year or whatever was the last update we got from the representative. Now
That
we
is-
pushed them back to August.
That is correct. There was an anticipation that we would have them this spring, which would be March. That is no longer true.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got just a couple of things.
Uh-huh.
It looks like you got a really full training calendar for the month. Something I'd like to kind of see is statistics on participation. I mean, how much we're offering and where we're actually getting participation. Just to give me an idea of, in my career, I do some training work, and, you know, you don't want to go train for 2 people. You want to go train 15, 20 people at a time. I mean, to utilize resources more efficiently, and so I wanted to see how much uptake we have on our offerings.
Yeah. I'll tell you that when we conduct an exercise, Bullard was there, Chapel Hill's been there. I mean, we've had some pretty full offerings where there's been significant participation. I won't say that that's every single time, but we've had some very significant participation, both from paid staff and volunteers.
But across the district, or is it really just?
It is isolated.
Okay. And then the other thing is, I'm looking at your, what was it? Oh, it's the breakdown, I think by actual time. You know, we have 277 EMS assist. And by far the largest quantity of calls that we have, and we've had this discussion in the past, and I just want to keep on talking about how do we.
Break that down further.
Yeah,
Yes.
And how do we ensure that, you know, our taxpayers are getting return on investment, right? You know, are we, I don't want to see us being called out just because we want a friendly hand.
Right,
So,
right.
so any information you can give us that we can hopefully do something, I appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, the one thing that is somewhat new for us in terms of us doing more EMS documentation. So the patient care records that we're doing now is giving us better aggregate data on that. So I expect to be able to provide that in a little better definitions for you.
Thank you.
So I do have the one safety report on there. That's a little shift in previous as HR has handed that off, we agreed that that was the right place for it to reside, was in operations, and for my office to be accountable for that. As you know, some of these are anonymous, but Safety Report 282 involves a safety violation where a service provider member was not wearing PPE. You notice in my Friday reports, I stress that quite regularly and quite vigorously, not for my own well-being, but for the members of the whole entire district. I find safety to be paramount, something that I can definitely have an impact on. I think the dollars that we spend in terms of personal protective equipment is extensive, and to make sure that we wear that so that we prevent any significant mishap from happening on the roadway. I speak from experience that the roadway is the most brutal. We've experienced that here in our own district, even in my short tenure here with the ESD. It is a significant piece of what we do. So I'm unflexible in my pursuit of personal protective equipment on the roadways. This one documents an issue where one was not wearing personal protective equipment. Further, you know, our request of our service providers and our VFDs is to bring larger apparatus for blocking. We only have 2 block apparatus within the district. It is most important that we bring engines to the scene for blocking purposes. We would much rather have an apparatus truck than a crew. So I continue with that pursuit. You'll continue to read those in my Friday reports as an ongoing pursuit as we lay out those expectations on wearing personal protective gear as well as bringing the most appropriate apparatus to the scene for blocking purposes.
And Chief, I want you to know that I think this board has demonstrated over and over again that we support you in making sure that our personnel have the proper equipment. I mean, each time we've had an incident where we've deemed equipment, and we've changed gloves, we've changed hoods and stuff, so.
You absolutely have.
Yeah. So we want to continue to do that, but the message needs to be that we've got to fully utilize it. I mean, the goal is nobody gets hurt, right? Well, if you're not using all the tools that we give you, then we really want to make sure that nobody really does get hurt.
Yeah, we have significant resolve in the command staff to continue to pursue compliance of all members associated with the district related to that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Item 15, it's a FYI. The proposed application process and qualification criteria for contractual agreement with fire and rescue departments, no action required, for information only. Application criteria and process for service provider contract. And who's going to speak on that one?
Commissioners, I'm happy to speak on that. Obviously, as things have evolved for the district in the last 30 days, it became important that we have some type of criteria, some type of process for how and when and if a service provider would want to come back and be considered before you as the board. The board has the sole responsibility of issuing contracts to service providers that has a reasonable expectation of being able to meet the terms of the contract. And so moving forward, we felt like it was important to put before you at least some criteria to be considered on how, when, and if a service provider would make application back to the board, what would be entailed with that. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. You have that before you.
I mean, if I just may add to the criteria that you see in the document is essentially a synopsis of what the contract actually requires. So it's an easier format for anybody to get a quick glance of what is required.
And I mean, I've gone through and read it, and have read it, and essentially what it basically says is that you got to be able to demonstrate to us that either you are compliant or you have a means to become compliant, to come back to service provider. So I think that's the key thing, is that just understanding, you know, what you can do, how you can provide those services to us. So, I see Mr. Garza here this evening. I know he's interested in this document. We'll make sure that you get a copy of it, and if you have any questions, I'm sure they'll be more than here to address it for you.
In addition to that, Mr. Dominy, you and I were able to meet with Dixie, Commissioners Wilson and President Brown. We were able to meet with Red Springs and kind of discuss and listen to their concerns and their hopes and desires. Director Edstrom and myself met with Jackson Heights on a weekend and had the same discussion. All three of them have had a meeting and had discussion with that. And a discussion about the potential to volunteer for a neighbor, to even consider merger with a neighbor, as well as consider volunteering for the district. And that's a brand-new piece for us, but something that is being opened up as we speak.
All right, item 16, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action on fire chiefs presenting and discussing issues with the board for future action. Chief Arnold?
Chief, before you get started, I'd like to ask
Now,
you,
what are you gonna ask me now?
I noticed that you got a 21-pound pet feed dispenser. So I want to know, have you taken?
I got a what?
A 21-pound pet food dispenser. Have you got a pet dog out there or something?
What in the world are you talking about?
Several of them.
I dispense a lot of feed to cows, but that's another matter.
I'm sure it's like for y'all to do salt or something other than, I don't know.
Yeah,
what
you
it's
just
part of it.
threw
But
me
it
for a
came
loop
across
off-
the
right
fences
off the bat.
as a pet food dispenser, so.
Okay. I'm not even gonna go into the report. I'm gonna go into things that have been bothering me. And Brent, thank you for taking care of one of them. The radio in my tanker, after 6 months, finally got back. I thank you for that. There was a miscommunication between you and our man crews about when it was actually ready. I think you had it fixed a long time before they found out it was. I think there's some miscommunication there. Hopefully, we can get a little better at that. That was in tanker 1 is what I call it now. Engine 2, our siren has been out probably for about a month and a half. We finally had to call Mike down the other day because the turbo on our engine, our tanker 2 is out, or tanker 1 is out. So we told him about the siren. He looked at it and he thinks he's got one at the shop. He's fixing to get that swapped out. I don't know which one they've been reporting that to, whether that goes to logistics, where it goes to fleet. There seems to be a little crossover there. If it's on a truck, in my opinion, it ought to be going to fleet, but some of this is logistics, so the communication there is not getting real good on that. One of the things, I know you're talking about, you're wanting us to use bigger apparatus, but a lot of times we use the command vehicle when we have stretched out incidents like the other night.
Get it?
They called me at the station, needed me to come out there and start slowing people down. I jumped in that truck, I went out there, reached behind the seat where we usually keep the vest, and they have all disappeared. It's not getting checked off correctly. I have expressed my concerns with all the lieutenants, and we're gonna be getting some more vests ordered, because we at least need that.
No doubt.
Other than that, what are the concerns on my report today, Mr. Dominy?
I just gave you a hard time.
Okay. Well, we've been running a lot down there, it seems like, so, a lot more than what we used to.
Thank you, sir.
All right, anybody from Bullard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, hi Grady, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Commissioners, chiefs, members of the forum here. I'm standing in for Chief Riley Knott. My name's Grady, I'm the captain over there. You got the report. Is that ours? Yep, there's our report up in front of you there if you got any questions on that. We've brought 3 new people on board. They're getting all their required documentation in. We're working towards getting everybody minimum of support certified through SFFMA. We've got Wildland 13190, we've got Wildland firefighter type 2 coming up. We've got folks in driver op. Got instructors and the officers all in officer 1 and 2, getting those going. What Chief mentioned earlier about the big training that we had big participation out there at the next level house, so it was a good deal out there. I did want to ping on a couple of the, not ping on, but Taylor Burns, Austin Kilgore, and Cody Rogers really stepped up with some of our young volunteers the other day. Took them on for some air SCBA consumption drills, which was phenomenal. Being able to train and work hand in hand with the career staff and the volunteers is just imperative, especially for the 12-hour station. So, but if y'all don't have any questions from me, that's all we've got from board.
Thank you. Chapel Hill, Chief Peterson.
Like I said, we've been still doing training. I have a guy now that's been certified for CPR. So I got an in-house guy to do our CPR. He's been teaching classes. We're keeping ourselves up on our CPR classes. Also, we have got our grant. In fact, we're now finally got the money for recruiting members, from banners to tablecloths and pamphlets, all that stuff we're going to start handing out. So we do have that. It was a $3,000 grant we got, and we're going to spend every bit of it. So we're working on getting that posted up by next month. We'll have that ready. And also, we're getting ready for our chili supper. It's going to be February the 24th. If anybody wanted to come to our chili supper at the high school.
February 24th.
24th of February. We'll be doing that.
You've never been, you need to go get your chili, it's good.
So, Chief, so you mentioned that you have a recruiting grant, and that's good that you've got it, and you're starting. I would ask that you contact Ms. Simmons if you haven't, and just kind of talk about what you're getting ready to do, so she can be informed on the, what you received in grant, what you're spending, how you're spending your money and everything. And I think she brings a lot to our organization, and I know she'd be more than happy to engage with you on as you get ready to start going through your recruiting efforts.
Okay. Yeah, can we use that?
Give you some help on it, Dale.
Yeah, we'll be using that to the school like I have been doing a lot with a high school up there in Chapel Hill, so I'm gonna use it a lot more there, because usually we didn't have any tablecloth saying that, and we got a big banner stand behind us, all that kind of stuff. And if we do outside, we even got a canopy. We'll have it outside as well for the grant.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Flint Gresham.
Commissioners. Certifications that we have submitted for through SFMA for the month of December. We had 1 Reach Fire Officer 1, 1 Incident Safety Officer, 1 Machinery Rescue 1, 1 Machinery Rescue 2, 2 support rows, 1 vehicle rescuer, and 1 wildland firefighter. The other thing that I want to bring up has part to do with the service provider contract, and I only printed off just a couple. The rest of them are all in this file right here, because I didn't feel like cutting down full trees. That is all for the month of December, 1st of January, where volunteer firefighters have been left off the reports. That's showing you where we've checked on with Response Master. Some of them's also showing you the door clicks. So they're literally taking us off. Some they're not adding us on. The ones I'm more concerned about is the ones they're taking us off of. And then it's like an act of Congress to get the reports open, to get them clear. the stack you got there affects about 18 different firefighters. So that definitely affects the numbers. The other thing that I want to bring up about it taking so long for us to, Mother May I, to get our reports opened up, I think we should have the capability, as far as our senior officers, to open our own reports. Because I've looked up, all of this is going under our fire ID, not the ESD fire ID. So we're being locked out of our own reports. The other thing I'd like to bring up is November and December, we have not reported on IMPers. And that's supposed to be done monthly. And Response Master is supposed to be doing that. So that's kind of all I got. Like I said, I didn't want to kill everybody's time by going through all them. Y'all can go through them at your own leisure, but if you got any other questions.
I was gonna compliment you on your volunteer participation against all calls. You have the best record for the month at 7%.
Well, and I feel
93%
like
really.
part of the five are probably answered in that stack too. Exactly which ones, I don't know. That, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. That's another thing that we do need, because I can't really, I don't have the time to go through every report to see what them five are. If there's a way it could tag on the bottom so we know which ones and we can go back and look at. If there's nothing else?
Thank you, Chief. Noonday.
Don't really have a whole lot. We got one member that started working on getting his basic certification. He started last week. He's about halfway done. We've got Chief Simmons. He's hit the door running. He's actually been doing a lot of training with also the volunteers and the paid staff as well. We've got potentially 3 commissioned firefighters that are looking to join. And like Chief Peterson said, we also received the recruitment grant. We've already got some banners, just waiting for the weather to cooperate before we can get those out.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Troop, Chief Mauger.
First off, I want to thank Chris Snow and Justin Reed. They came down to our department and did some training with our people on their own time, and we do appreciate that very much. And I want to recognize them for that. Second of all, we've got one that just got his EMT cert, so we've got another medical trained one in there. And I believe that's about the size of it right there. Y'all don't have any questions?
Thank you. And by the way, you got one of those feeders too, so I'm looking for your dog or whatever it is that you got down there.
You want my dog?
Yeah, see, I don't want it.
She's been sleeping in the house for a week now, so.
Chief Champion, White House.
Down at White House, I've got one of my new younger guys that just started this week into his EMT class. He does have his firefighter too. He started back in November with it, doing online, and he backed off that real quick. He says, I can't do that and work too. So, he's signed up, like I say, started this week at TJC for his EMT class. We had 3 at our last meeting that came, that's doing dual membership from other departments that signed up with us, so picking up with that some. About that, that's about it for now.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Chief Allen, Winona.
Yes, sir. As y'all all know, we train multiple days during the month. We did some extrication training, did some practicing with competency with the jaws and spreader. I've got one in the fire academy that she is fairly confident with. Other than that, man, we're just rolling along.
Okay.
Anything else?
Got any new members?
I had one, I think, new since last time I seen you guys. Brianna Bain, she's a EMT for UTMS. So,
Chief, you have about 8 people on your roster that show no activity.
yes, sir, we're fixing to fix all that problem. Zeros are unacceptable in any form. So,
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can I add something to Winona's report?
Mhm.
They've successfully executed the lease with UT for Winona Station 2. So we're done with that project.
After a long time.
Please don't ask, because I don't even know how long ago it started.
Yeah.
But it's been an
At least 2
undertaking.
years.
Yeah, I've had it since I started support services, so.
Yeah, 21? Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Item 17 will be closed session. The board will convene in closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code 551-071, 072, and 074. No action shall be taken while the board is in closed session. Any final action, decision, or final vote shall be taken after the board reconvenes in open session. We are in closed session at Okay. We're now back in open session at 9:08, or 9:09 PM. And I think there's one item that we pulled off the consent agenda that we need to
We'll go back and
talk, revisit 5.1.
And consider it, I'll make the motion that we pay Eagle Fuel $27,713.90.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Dominic, we pay the district fuel bill in the amount of $27,713.90. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner Wilson. Any other discussion or question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay, and that motion carries. All right. Item number 19 is remarks by presiding officer and/or board members and updates. Don't have much to say except just appreciate all the work that our career and volunteer staff does, and also our administrative staff for the time they put in trying to make things happen the way they should. And that's about all I've got to say, and just appreciate the job that everybody does. Anybody else have anything? Okay. All right, we are adjourned at 9:10. Thank you.